In 1965, Vietnam seemed like just another foreign war. But it wasn't. It was different in many ways, and so were those who did the fighting. In World War II, the average age is 26. In Vietnam, he was 19. 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 19.
The heaviest fighting of the past 2 weeks continued today, 25 miles northwest of Saigon.
I wasn't really sure what was going on.
19. In Vietnam, the combat soldier typically served a 12-month tour of duty, but was exposed to hostile fire almost every day.
The Vietnam War was one of the most controversial engagements in American history. What happened during the war that makes so many people feel this way? Could it be the 47,000 hostile deaths? Or the fact that more 21-year-olds were killed than any other age group? Well, today we will dive into the mind of Mr. Dezuzio, a former sergeant in the Air Force, to hear his first-hand account of the Vietnam War. So, how are you, Mr. Dezuzio?
I'm good, Chris.
You ready for a quick interview here?
Sure.
All right. So I hear you're a veteran of the Vietnam War, correct?
Correct.
How old were you when you went into the military?
19.
19. So what year would that put us in?
1965.
65. All right. Were you drafted when you went in, or did you go into the military voluntarily?
That's a good question. If you weren't in college and you weren't rich, you got drafted, or
Okay.
you volunteered. I felt like it was a disgrace to my family if I got drafted, so I enlisted. I
So you
joined the Air
volunteered.
Force. I wanted to join the Army, but the recruiter was never there. So it was a battle between the Navy and the Air Force, and the Air Force won, because I don't like to get water in my ears.
All right. So you went with the Air Force. You entered voluntarily. How did your parents feel when you decided to go?
Well, now that I'm a parent, it's easier for me to understand. Okay, I have a daughter. They had mixed emotions. My father had been in the Army Air Corps during World War II.
Okay.
So he was proud. My mother was very emotional, and she didn't like the idea at all. But I told her, I have to get it over with. I have to at least do my 4 years and get it over with. And the Air Force assured me that I was not going to Vietnam. Okay.
So you eventually did go to Vietnam, of course.
Because they lie.
Yeah.
Once they get you, they got you.
So what was your role when you went to Vietnam in the Air Force?
Okay, my AFSC, your Air Force classification, I was an airborne communications technician. That sounds impressive. I fixed radios
Okay.
and the intercom systems. In the jet fighters, I did mostly the radio. I helped the radar guys, I helped the electricians. And basically I fixed the radios and the intercoms in the planes. And then I worked on some of the bigger planes too, which had more intercoms.
So that was how they communicated between the
pilot and the co-pilot.
pilot and the co-pilot?
Yeah.
Okay. What were some of the difficulties that you had to overcome while you were in Vietnam? Anything kind of out of the ordinary that you had to get over?
Except for college, it's the first time that I was really away from home. You know,
So the
far away from
homesickness.
home, 17,000 miles.
Wow.
I missed my brother, I missed my parents, I missed my friends, I missed reality.
Yeah.
You know.
You're kind of away from everything. You're in that
Yeah.
in that zone.
It's like
for
the
few
Twilight
years.
Zone. You enter into a different dimension.
Wow. So it was just basically homesickness was a big part of this.
Yeah, and every day when I'd go out on the flight line and see those guys loading the napalm on the wings of the planes, that's a guilt trip right there.
Wow.
You know, one of the questions that you have on your list of questions, Chris, is that do you have any feelings that haunt you? And that's one of the things
That
that,
come back.
haunts me is I personally did not go out in the jungle and shoot people, but I see that napalm because I've seen pictures of it.
You
movies
prepared
of it.
other people.
It's a rolling jelly that just burns people alive. And I fixed the planes that delivered the napalm.
that.
So that
Wow.
guilt's going to be with me,
For a while.
until I die.
So that answers our next question. Did you ever go into battle? You said you never went onto the front lines, but you prepared.
there's very few front lines in Vietnam. 90% of the warfare was jungle warfare. I was at a base called Tuiwa. It was right on the coast. And what they did is first they came in with the Agent Orange and they sprayed everything. Then they got these big cat earth movers and they started at the beach and they pushed all the vegetation 12 miles to the bottom of the mountains. So all you could see when we got there was our tents that we put up and flat sand. There was no place for Charlie to hide.
Nothing to
so
hide.
it was nice. Okay. Now, in all our spare time when we weren't working on the planes, we were building our hooches. They come in a box and you put them together with nuts and bolts. And they're pretty nice barracks.
Okay.
After I was there for about 6 months, they needed volunteers to supplement the air police. So we were called augmentee air policemen. And whenever things were iffy, I'd get a call because I was in charge of the barracks. I was the mother, the father, the rabbi, the priest to 48 guys, and because I was a sergeant. And the phone would ring, and we'd have to put our battle gear on. A truck would come pick us up, and they would deploy us between the towers. So the air police were in the towers, and then on ground level, we were in the foxholes, guarding the base
in case
case anybody tried to sneak in.
Okay. How do you personally feel about the Vietnam War? Did you might not want to have gone, but you went into the military and you were deployed to Vietnam. How does that feel?
That's very emotional. So I'm gonna have to take a minute to think about that.
Okay.
Okay.
No problem.
I'll tell you the same thing I told other people that have interviewed me. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Okay. If I had a son or a daughter, I would go to Canada. Now that sounds very, very radical. I love my country more than anything else. The only thing I love more than my country is my wife and my child and my students. Okay. So in that order, I would fight right now at 63 to defend you in this country, but I would not go to some foreign land where they don't give up about us and fight ever again. And if I had to do it all over again, no, I wouldn't go to Vietnam. A Vietnam veteran once said to me, "I wish I was you." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because you're a teacher, you can work within the system and work with young people's minds and teach them that war is a no-no. War is not good, and we should just not fight wars." So I tell my students, don't go.
Yeah.
Today it's not politically correct to protest. But you know what? I don't care anymore. I'm 63 years old. I'm heading towards the end of my career, and I tell my students the truth. They'll come to me and they say, "I want to join the Air Force. I want to join the Army. I want to join the Navy." And you know what I say to them? Don't. That's how strongly I feel. Now, getting back to your original question, it was a total waste. Okay? And I didn't find out until within the last couple of years watching the History Channel, because the government doesn't tell you this and the media doesn't tell you this. We lost the friggin' war. We really did. We lost the war because the Viet Cong were underneath the ground in their tunnels. They had every type of angle that you could possibly think of. And we tried everything. We put water in there. We put napalm in there. We put hand grenades in there. If you look at the History Channel now and you see the way their tunnels were designed,
that didn't affect them at all.
It didn't affect them at all because they had contingency plans. They knew exactly what to do. That's why they won the war.
Wow. So